in the land of the free. 1. See, little one, the hills in the morning sun. There is thy home for years to come. It is very beautiful, and thou wilt be very happy there. The little one looked up into his mother's face in perfect faith. He was engaged in the pleasant occupation of sucking a sweetmeat, but that did not prevent him from gurgling responsively. Yes, my olive bud, there is where thy father is making a fortune for thee. Thy father, oh, wilt thou not be glad to behold his dear face? 'Twas for thee I left him. The little one ducked his chin sympathetically against his mother's knee. She lifted him onto her lap. He was 2 years old, a round, dimple-cheeked boy with bright brown eyes and a sturdy little frame. Ooh, 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 puffed he, mocking a tugboat steaming by. San Francisco's waterfront was lined with ships and steamers, while other craft, large and small, including a couple of white transports from the Philippines, lay at anchor here and there offshore. It was some time before the Eastern Queen could get docked, and even after that was accomplished, a lone Chinaman who had been waiting on the wharf for an hour was detained that much longer by men with the initials USC on their caps before he could board the steamer and welcome his wife and child. "This is thy son," announced the happy Li Ju. Kan-Sing lifted the child, felt of his little body and limbs, gazed into his face with proud and joyous eyes, then turned inquiringly to a customs officer at his elbow. "That's a fine boy you have there," said the man. "Where was he born?" "In China," answered Kan-Sing, swinging the little one on his right shoulder, preparatory to leading his wife off the steamer. "Ever been to America before?" "No, not he," answered the father with a happy laugh. The customs officer beckoned to another. "This little fellow," said he, "is visiting America for the first time." The other customs officer stroked his chin reflectively. "Good day," said Kan-Sing. "Wait," commanded one of the officers. "You cannot go just yet." "What more now?" asked Kan-Sing. "I'm afraid," said the first customs officer, "that we cannot allow the boy to go ashore. There is nothing in the papers that you have shown us, your wife's papers and your own, having any bearing upon the child." "There was no child when the papers were made out," returned Kan-Sing. He spoke calmly, but there was an apprehension in his eyes and in his tightening grip on his son. "What is it? What is it?" quavered Li Ju, who understood a little English. The second customs officer regarded her pityingly. "I don't like this part of the business," he muttered. The first officer turned to Kan-Sing and in an official tone of voice said, "Seeing that the boy has no certificate entitling him to admission to this country, you will have to leave him with us." "Leave my boy?" exclaimed Kan-Sing. "Yes, he will be well taken care of, and just as soon as we can hear from Washington, he will be handed over to you." "But," protested Kan-Sing, "he is my son." "We have no proof," answered the man with a shrug of his shoulders. "And even so, we cannot let him pass without orders from the government." "He is my son," reiterated Kan-Sing slowly and solemnly. "I am a Chinese merchant and have been in business in San Francisco for many years. When my wife told to me one morning that she dreamed of a green tree with spreading branches and one beautiful red flower growing thereon, I answered her that I wished my son to be born in our country and for her to prepare to go to China. My wife complied with my wish. After my son was born, my mother fell sick and my wife nursed and cared for her. Then my father, too, fell sick and my wife also nursed and cared for him. For 20 moons my wife cared for and nursed the old people, and when they died they blessed her and my son, and I sent for her to return to me. I had no fear of trouble. I was a Chinese merchant, and my son was my son." "Very good, Kan-Sing," replied the first officer. "Nevertheless, we take your son." "No, you not take him. He my son too." It was Li Ju. Snatching the child from his father's arms, she held and covered him with her own. The officers conferred together for a few moments. Then one drew Kanxing aside and spoke in his ear. Resignedly, Kanxing bowed his head, then approached his wife. "'Tis the law," said he, speaking in Chinese, "and told me but for a little while, until tomorrow's sun arises." "You too," reproached Li Ju in a voice eloquent with pain. But accustomed to obedience, she yielded the boy to her husband, who in turn delivered him to the first officer. The little one protested lustily against the transfer, but his mother covered her face with her sleeve, and his father silently led her away. Thus was the law of the land complied with. 2. Day was breaking. Li Ju, who had been awake all night, dressed herself, then awoke her husband. "'Tis the morn," she cried. "Go, bring our son." The man rubbed his eyes and arose upon his elbow so that he could see out of the window. A pale star was visible in the sky. The petals of a lily in a bowl on the windowsill were unfurled. "'Tis not yet time," said he, laying his head down again. "Not yet time. All the time that I lived before yesterday is not so much as the time that has been since my little one was taken from me." The mother threw herself down beside the bed and covered her face. Kanxing turned on the light, and touching his wife's bowed head with a sympathetic hand, inquired if she had slept. "Slept?" she echoed, weepingly. How could I close my eyes with my arms empty of the little body that has filled them every night for more than 20 moons? You do not know, man, what it is to miss the feel of the little fingers and the little toes and the soft round limbs of your little one. Even in the darkness his darling eyes used to shine up to mine, and often have I fallen into slumber with his pretty babble at my ear. And now I see him not, I touch him not, I hear him not. My baby, my little fat one." Now, consoled Kanxing, patting his wife's shoulder reassuringly. "There is no need to grieve so. He will soon gladden you again. There cannot be any law that would keep a child from its mother." Li Ju dried her eyes. "You are right, my husband," she meekly murmured. She arose and stepped about the apartment, setting things to right. The box of presents she had brought for her California friends had been opened the evening before, and silks, embroideries, carved ivories, ornamental lacquerware, brasses, camphorwood boxes, fans, and chinaware were scattered around in confused heaps. In the midst of unpacking, the thought of her child in the hands of strangers had overpowered her, and she had left everything to crawl into bed and weep. Having arranged her gifts in order, she stepped out onto the deep balcony. The star had faded from view, and there were bright streaks in the western sky. Li Ju looked down the street and around. Beneath the flat occupied by her and her husband were quarters for a number of bachelor Chinamen, and she could hear them from where she stood, taking their early morning breakfast. Below their dining room was her husband's grocery store. Across the way was a large restaurant. Last night it had been resplendent with gay-colored lanterns and the sound of music. The rejoicings over the completion of the moon by Kong Sen's firstborn had been long and loud, and had caused her to tie a handkerchief over her ears. She, a bereaved mother, had it not in her heart to rejoice with other parents. This morning, the place was more in accord with her mood. It was still and quiet. The revelers had dispersed or were asleep. A roly-poly woman in black sateen, with long pendant earrings in her ears, looked up from the street below and waved her a smiling greeting. It was her old neighbor, Kuei Huai, the wife of the gold embosser, Mark Cheng. With her was a little boy in yellow jacket and lavender pantaloons. Li Ju remembered him as a baby. She used to like to play with him in those days when she had no child of her own. What a long time ago that seemed. She caught her breath in a sigh and laughed instead. "Why are you so merry?" called her husband from within. "Because my little one is coming home," answered Li Ju. "I am a happy mother, a happy mother." She pattered into the room with a smile on her face. The noon hour had arrived. The rice was steaming in the bowls, and a fragrant dish of chicken and bamboo shoots was awaiting Kensing. Not for one moment had Li Ju paused to rest during the morning hours. Her activity had been ceaseless. Every now and again, however, she had raised her eyes to the gilded clock on the curiously carved mantelpiece. Once she had exclaimed, "Why so long? Oh, why so long?" Then apostrophizing herself, "Li Ju, be happy. The little one is coming. The little one is coming." Several times she burst into tears, and several times she laughed aloud. Kensing entered the room, his arms hung down by his side. "The little one!" shrieked Li Ju. "They bid me call tomorrow." With a moan, the mother sank to the floor. The noon hour passed. The dinner remained on the table. 3. The winter rains were over. The spring had come to California, flushing the hills with green and causing an ever-changing pageant of flowers to pass over them. But there was no spring in Li Ju's heart, for the little one remained away from her arms. He was being kept in a mission. White women were caring for him, and though for one full moon he had pined for his mother and refused to be comforted, he was now apparently happy and contented. 5 moons or 5 months had gone by since the day he had passed with Li Ju through the Golden Gate, but the great government at Washington still delayed sending the answer which would return him to his parents. Kensing was disconsolately rolling up and down the balls in his abacus box when a keen-faced young man stepped into his store. "What news?" asked the Chinese merchant. "This." The young man brought forth a typewritten letter. Kensing read the words. "Regarding Chinese child, alleged to be the son of Kensing, Chinese merchant, doing business at 425 Clay Street, San Francisco. Same will have attention as soon as possible." Kensing returned the letter, and without a word continued his manipulation of the counting machine. "Have you anything to say?" asked the young man. "Nothing. They have sent the same letter 15 times before. Have you not yourself showed it to me?" "True." The young man eyed the Chinese merchant furtively. He had a proposition to make, and he was wondering whether or not the time was opportune. "How is your wife?" he inquired solicitously and diplomatically. Kensing shook his head mournfully. "She seems less every day," he replied. "Her food she takes only when I bid her, and her tears fall continually. She finds no pleasure in dress or flowers, and cares not to see her friends. Her eyes stare all night. I think before another moon she will pass into the land of spirits." "No," exclaimed the young man, genuinely startled. "If the boy not come home, I lose my wife sure," continued Kensing with bitter sadness. "It's not right," cried the young man indignantly. Then he made his proposition. The Chinese father's eyes brightened exceedingly. "Will I like you to go to Washington and make them give you the paper to restore my son?" cried he. "How can you ask when you know my heart's desire?" "Then," said the young fellow, "I will start next week. I'm anxious to see this thing through, if only for the sake of your wife's peace of mind." "I will call her. To hear what you think to do will make her glad," said Kensing. He called a message to Li Ju upstairs through a tube in the wall. In a few moments she appeared, listless, wan, and hollow-eyed, but when her husband told her the young lawyer's suggestion, she became as one electrified. Her form straightened, her eyes glistened, the color flushed to her cheeks. "Oh," she cried, turning to James Clancy, "you are 100 man good." The young man felt somewhat embarrassed. His eyes shifted a little under the intense gaze of the Chinese mother. "Well, we must get your boy for you," he responded. "Of course." Turning to Kensing, "It will cost a little money. You can't get fellows to hurry the government for you without gold in your pocket." Kensing stared blankly for a moment. Then, "How much do you want, Mr. Clancy?" he asked quietly. "Well, I will need at least 500 to start with." Kenshin cleared his throat. "I think I told you the time I last paid you for writing letters for me and seeing the custom boss here that nearly all I had was gone." "Oh, well, then we won't talk about it, old fellow. It won't harm the boy to stay where he is, and your wife may get over it all right." "What that you say?" quavered Li Ju. James Clancy looked out of the window. "He says," explained Kenshin in English, "that to get our boy we have to have much money." "Money? Oh, yes." Li Ju nodded her head. "I have not got the money to give him." For a moment, Li Ju gazed wonderingly from one face to the other. Then, comprehension dawning upon her, with swift anger, pointing to the lawyer, she cried, "You not 100-man good, you just common white man." "Yes, ma'am," returned James Clancy, bowing and smiling ironically. Kenshin pushed his wife behind him and addressed the lawyer again. "I might try," said he, "to raise something, but 500, it is not possible." "What about 4? "I tell you I have next to nothing left and my friends are not rich." "Very well." The lawyer moved leisurely toward the door, pausing on its threshold to light a cigarette. "Stop, white man! White man, stop!" Li Ju, panting and terrified, had started forward and now stood beside him, clutching his sleeve excitedly. "You say you can go to get paper to bring my little one to me if Kenshin give you $500. The lawyer nodded carelessly. His eyes were intent upon the cigarette which would not take the fire from the match. "Then you go get paper. If Kenshin not can give you $500, I give you perhaps what's more that much." She slipped a heavy gold bracelet from her wrist and held it out to the man. Mechanically, he took it. "I go get more." She scurried away, disappearing behind the door through which she had come. "Oh, look here, I can't accept this," said James Clancy, walking back to Kenshin and laying down the bracelet before him. "It's all right," said Kenshin seriously. "Pure China gold. My wife's parents gave it to her when we married." "But I can't take it anyway," protested the young man. "It is all same as money, and you want money to go to Washington," replied Kenshin in a matter-of-fact manner. "See, my jade earrings, my gold buttons, my hairpins, my comb of pearl, and my rings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rings. Very good, very good. All same much money. I give them all to you. You take it and bring me paper for my little one." Li Ju piled up her jewels before the lawyer. Kenshin laid a restraining hand upon her shoulder. "Not all, my wife," he said in Chinese. He selected a ring, his gift to Li Ju when she dreamed of the tree with the red flower. The rest of the jewels he pushed toward the white man. "Take them and sell them," said he. "They will pay your fare to Washington and bring you back with the paper." For one moment, James Clancy hesitated. He was not a sentimental man, but something within him arose against accepting such payment for his services. "They are good, good," pleadingly asserted Li Ju, seeing his hesitation. Whereupon he seized the jewels, thrust them into his coat pocket, and walked rapidly away from the store. 4. Li Ju followed after the missionary woman through the mission nursery school. Her heart was beating so high with happiness that she could scarcely breathe. The paper had come at last, the precious paper which gave Kenshin and his wife the right to the possession of their own child. It was 10 months now since he had been taken from them, 10 months since the sun had ceased to shine for Li Ju. The room was filled with children, most of them wee tots, but none so wee as her own. The mission woman talked as she walked. She told Li Zhu that little Kim, as he had been named by the school, was the pet of the place, and that his little tricks and ways amused and delighted everyone. He had been rather difficult to manage at first, and had cried much for his mother. But children so soon forget, and after a month he seemed quite at home and played around as bright and happy as a bird. Yes, responded Li Zhu. Oh, yes, yes. But she did not hear what was said to her. She was walking in a maze of anticipatory joy. Wait here, please, said the mission woman, placing Li Zhu in a chair. The very youngest ones are having their breakfast. She withdrew for a moment. It seemed like an hour to the mother. Then she reappeared, leading by the hand a little boy dressed in blue cotton overalls and white-soled shoes. The little boy's face was round and dimpled, and his eyes were very bright. Little one, my little one, cried Li Zhu. She fell on her knees and stretched her hungry arms toward her son. But the little one shrunk from her and tried to hide himself in the folds of the white woman's skirt. Go away, he bade his mother. It's the land of the free. But this is just like a family separation story. Honestly, it kind of, it does very much suck. I guess, history just repeats, doesn't it? To be honest, I don't really have much to say about this one, except that it's very shit. Like, the situation is very shit and it sucks. And I don't know, I feel like those soldiers kind of knew what was going to happen then. I feel like they've seen it all and they just kind of fucking, they did their jobs. They kind of knew what was happening. I don't know. That's a whole discussion, right? Anyway, bye.